The café fell silent as three identical little girls approached the lonely man in the corner. Their matching blue dresses and ribbon-tied braids caught everyone's attention, but it was their whispered request that changed everything: "Pretend you're our father." What happened next would break hearts across the city and remind us all what true sacrifice looks like. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more real stories that restore faith in humanity. Michael Chen stared into his cooling cup of tea, the steam no longer rising to fog his glasses. The small café had become his Sunday ritual, the only hour of peace he allowed himself between his three jobs. At 42, his hands were calloused from years of labor, his shoulders permanently hunched from carrying the weight of broken dreams. 5 tables away, Sophia Reynolds watched her triplet daughters whispering among themselves. At 8 years old, Lily, Emma, and Zoe were inseparable, their bond forged in the absence of their father who had walked out when they were just 3. Sophia's heart ached as she observed them stealing glances at the solitary man in the corner. "Girls, finish your hot chocolate. We need to get to your piano lesson," Sophia said, checking her watch. As a single mother working 2 jobs, every minute of her schedule was precisely allocated. "But Mom," Lily, the boldest of the 3, protested. "That man looks so sad. Like how we felt on Father's Day at school." Sophia's throat tightened. Last month's Father's Day celebration at school had been particularly difficult. While other children presented handmade cards and crafts to their dads, her girls had sat quietly at their desks, 3 cards with no recipients. "Sweetheart, we can't disturb strangers. It's not polite," Sophia explained gently, but Emma, always the empathetic one, was already sliding off her chair. "He looks like he needs someone to talk to, Mom. Just for a minute?" Before Sophia could stop them, all 3 girls had approached Michael's table. She watched in horror and fascination as they stood before him, 3 identical faces with the same determined expression. "Excuse me, sir," Zoe said politely. "Would you pretend to be our father? Just for today?" Michael looked up, startled out of his reverie. The request hit him like a physical blow. For years ago, he had been a father, to a beautiful daughter named May. For years ago, he had been a husband, a software engineer with a corner office, a man with plans for the future. Then came the accident. His wife Lynn's death had been instantaneous. May had survived initially, but the medical bills had mounted as she fought for her life in the pediatric ICU. Michael had sold everything, their house, his car, even his wedding ring, but it hadn't been enough. After May died, the debt remained, a cruel reminder of his double loss. "I'm sorry," Michael stammered, looking around for their mother. "I don't think." "Please," Lily insisted. "We have piano lessons, and all the other kids have dads who wait for them and tell them they did a good job." Something in Michael broke and mended simultaneously. "What are your names?" he asked softly. "I'm Lily. This is Emma, and that's Zoe. We're triplets." "I can see that," Michael said, a smile forming for the first time that day. "I'm Michael." Sophia appeared behind her daughters, mortified. "I'm so sorry," she began. "Girls, I told you not to bother." "It's no bother," Michael assured her. "I was just surprised." Their eyes met over the girls' heads, and something passed between them, a recognition of shared struggle, of battles fought alone. "We're late for piano," Sophia said, breaking the moment. "Again, I apologize." "Actually," Michael said, surprising himself, "I used to play. Would it be inappropriate if I came along? I could help them practice." The girls' faces lit up with identical grins, and Sophia found herself nodding despite her reservations. That afternoon changed everything. Michael sat in the waiting area during their lessons, then offered suggestions afterward that transformed their reluctant practice into enthusiastic exploration. His knowledge of music theory impressed both Sophia and the piano teacher. "You play beautifully," Sophia commented as Michael demonstrated a difficult passage for Emma. "Why did you stop?" Michael's fingers stilled on the keys. "Life happened," he said simply. Over the following weeks, Michael became a fixture in their lives. He never missed a Sunday at the café, and somehow his schedule aligned to help with piano lessons. He taught the girls to ride bikes in the park, patiently running alongside each one until they found their balance. He helped with math homework, built a treehouse in Sophia's small backyard, and showed up for their school play with flowers for each girl. For Michael, the joy he found with Sophia and her daughters was tinged with guilt. Sometimes, when Zoe laughed a certain way, she reminded him so much of May that he had to turn away to hide his tears. He kept his past locked away, afraid that sharing his grief would somehow taint this new happiness. Sophia noticed his occasional retreats into silence but didn't press. She had her own secrets, the constant fear of financial ruin, the exhaustion that never quite left her bones, the worry that she was failing her daughters despite her best efforts. 3 months after their first meeting, Michael arrived at their house for the girls' birthday dinner. He carried 3 identical packages, each wrapped in different colored paper to match the girls' preferences. "You didn't have to bring gifts," Sophia protested as she welcomed him in. "I wanted to," Michael replied. The truth was, he'd been saving for these gifts, taking extra shifts at the warehouse where he worked nights. The girls tore into their presents with delight, each finding a beginner's music composition set with notebooks, special pencils, and simple software. "Because you're each creating your own music now," Michael explained. "You should have the tools to write it down." Later, after the girls had gone to bed, still buzzing with excitement, Sophia and Michael sat on her small porch, sharing a bottle of wine. "Thank you," Sophia said. "Not just for today, but for everything these past months. The girls, they've changed since meeting you." Michael nodded, his throat tight. "They've changed me too." "Can I ask you something?" Sophia ventured. "You never talk about your past. Sometimes you look at the girls with such sadness." The night air seemed to still around them. Michael took a deep breath, then another. "And finally, the dam broke." He told her everything, about Lynn, about May, about the accident and the desperate months that followed. About selling their home to pay medical bills, about holding his daughter's hand as she slipped away, about the crushing debt that remained. "I work 3 jobs, he concluded. The café is my only luxury. 1 hour a week to remember who I used to be." Sophia's eyes shimmered with tears. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to be the sad man with the tragic past," Michael admitted. "With you and the girls, I can be someone else, someone better." Sophia reached for his hand. "You're already someone wonderful, Michael. The past is part of that." Their relationship deepened after that night. Michael's presence became a constant, reliable force in their lives. He never tried to replace the girls' biological father, but he filled the role in ways that mattered, attending parent-teacher conferences, teaching them to change bike tires, explaining thunderstorms when they were frightened. For Sophia, watching Michael with her daughters healed wounds she hadn't realized were still open. His patience, his genuine interest in their development, his willingness to show up, these were the things she had once believed impossible to find, but as their first Christmas together approached, reality intruded on their happiness. Michael's landlord sold the building where he rented a small apartment, and the new owners doubled the rent. The timing couldn't have been worse. One of his jobs at a local factory had just announced layoffs. "Move in with us," Sophia suggested when he told her the news. "We have the spare room. It makes financial sense." Michael hesitated. "I don't want the girls to get confused about what we are to each other." "They already love you," Sophia said simply. "And I," she stopped, suddenly uncertain. "And you?" Michael prompted. "I think I might love you too," she admitted. "But that's not why I'm offering. You've become family to us, Michael. Let us help you the way you've helped us." Michael moved in 2 weeks before Christmas. The girls were ecstatic, turning the preparation of the spare room into an elaborate project involving homemade welcome signs and special pillowcases they decorated themselves. Life settled into a new rhythm. Michael continued working multiple jobs, but now he came home to family dinners and homework sessions at the kitchen table. Sophia found herself smiling more, the constant tension in her shoulders easing as she shared the burden of parenting. Then came the letter from the hospital's collection agency. Despite years of payments, Michael still owed over $200,000 for May's treatment. They were threatening legal action, wage garnishment, whatever it took to collect. Michael read the letter alone in his room, the paper shaking in his hands. He'd been making minimum payments for years, barely keeping the collectors at bay. But with the recent job loss and move, he'd missed 2 payments. Now everything was at risk, not just his own future, but the life he'd begun to build with Sophia and the girls. He didn't tell Sophia about the letter. Instead, he took on a 4th job, working overnight security at a warehouse across town. He would leave after dinner, return just in time to help get the girls ready for school, then sleep for 3 hours before heading to his afternoon job. Sophia noticed the change immediately. "You're running yourself into the ground," she confronted him after a week of this new schedule. "What's going on?" "Just trying to build up some savings," Michael lied. "It's temporary." But as weeks passed, the exhaustion took its toll. Michael fell asleep at dinner one night, his face nearly landing in his plate. He forgot promises made to the girls, missed Emma's solo in the school concert, became irritable from lack of sleep. The girls noticed too. "Is Michael going to leave like Dad did?" Zoe asked Sophia one night, her voice small in the darkness of their bedroom. "No, sweetheart," Sophia assured her, though doubt had begun to creep into her own heart. "He's just working very hard right now." The breaking point came when Michael collapsed at his warehouse job, his body finally surrendering to the punishing schedule. The hospital called Sophia as his emergency contact. When Michael opened his eyes to find Sophia sitting beside his hospital bed, the irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, creating more medical debt while trying to pay off the old. "They found this in your wallet," Sophia said quietly, holding up the folded collection letter. "Why didn't you tell me?" Michael closed his eyes, shame washing over him. "I didn't want to burden you. You have enough to worry about with the girls." "That's not how this works," Sophia said, her voice firm despite the tears in her eyes. "We're partners now. Your burdens are mine, and mine are yours." In the days that followed, they made a plan. Sophia, who had been taking online courses in graphic design, had recently been offered a full-time position at a marketing firm, a job with benefits and a substantial increase in salary. Michael would cut back to 2 jobs, focusing on the one with health insurance. Together, they contacted the hospital and negotiated a settlement, still substantial, but manageable with a structured payment plan. It would take years, but for the first time, Michael could see an end to the debt that had defined his life since the accident. More importantly, he could see a future: weekend trips to the lake, the girls' high school graduations, quiet evenings with Sophia when the house was finally empty. A second chance at the family he thought he'd lost forever. A year after the triplets first approached him in the café, Michael took Sophia back to that same corner table. The girls were at a sleepover, giving them a rare evening alone. "Do you remember what you were thinking that day?" Sophia asked as they waited for their tea. Michael considered the question. "I was thinking about May. About how she would have been 12 that day. I was wondering if I had the strength to keep going." Sophia reached across the table for his hand. "And now?" "Now I think about the future more than the past," Michael said. "I think about college funds and wedding dances and growing old on a porch somewhere." "With me?" Sophia asked, a smile playing at her lips. "With you," Michael confirmed. "If you'll have me." From his pocket, he produced a small box, not with a ring, but with a key. "I've been saving," he explained. "There's a house for rent near the girls' school. It has a yard and enough bedrooms that the girls won't have to share. The rent is reasonable, and maybe someday we could even buy it." Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she took the key. "You've already given us so much, Michael." "You gave me more," he said simply. "You and the girls gave me a reason to live again." 2 years later, Michael stood in the backyard of that same house, now with a mortgage in both their names, watching as Lily, Emma, and Zoe practiced for their middle school talent show. They had formed a trio, with Emma on piano, Lily on violin, and Zoe singing. The melody they played was one Michael had helped them compose, based on a lullaby he used to sing to May. Sophia joined him, slipping her arm around his waist. Her wedding ring caught the afternoon sunlight. They had married in a simple ceremony the previous summer, with the girls as their attendants. "They're amazing," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "They had a good teacher," Sophia replied. As the music swelled, Michael thought about the journey that had brought them here. The crushing grief that had nearly destroyed him. The overwhelming debt that had seemed insurmountable. The 3 little girls who had seen his pain and offered him a chance to heal. He had sacrificed everything once: his home, his possessions, his sense of self, trying to save what couldn't be saved. But in that sacrifice, he had been stripped down to his essence, ready to rebuild when the time came. And it had come, in a café on a Sunday afternoon, with 3 identical whispers: "Pretend you're our father." He wasn't pretending anymore. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more real stories about sacrifice, redemption, and the power of unexpected connections. Share in the comments if you've ever experienced a moment that changed your life's direction. Sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as our deepest challenges.